So coming out of retreat is always so interesting. um, uh, it takes a while to uh, shed that reality for me, anyhow. So it's been very interesting. And retreat is always a very rich experience. This year was no different. Um, the first thing I learned in the first winter retreat I did in 2004, I think it was to drop any expectations. Um, I have very little control over my mind. Hmm? And so planning how the retreat would go would just set myself up for misery. And so I've been pretty good at not, I'll plan a little bit, but I don't hold it tight at all because the mind goes in many different ways in many different places during retreat. So each retreat, I evaluate how my practice for the year has impacted the three poisons, anger, attachment, and ignorance. And there has been a little progress, it's slow, and some deeper understanding. So I wanted to talk about that today a little bit. And I want to thank the community for giving me the opportunity to work with my untamed mind. Thank you. You've been very kind. Um, so first regarding anger, so a few months ago, I got totally out of control, screaming and yelling in this very room, and it kind of woke me up, So, uh, boy, so unskillful. And so I've been practicing with my relationship with anger and with reactions since then. And I've been trying to practice to lean into my reactions instead of letting them just take me forward and emote and bleh, and be harmful. Um, and of course, if I don't manage my reaction, then I'm immediately pointing the finger out, and then there it goes. So by kind of leaning into what is going on here, then um, I've been able to stay with my feelings a bit more and to then see what my mind is doing. And then that's the doorway in to kind of recognize my distortions, um, and then uh, practicing making some requests after I calm myself down. So it's been helpful. Of course, it's a work in progress. Also, retreat is very helpful because we're in silence, and then when I have a reaction, I get to sit with it instead of immediately, react and then talk and, point outward. And so then I get to know my mind a lot better, and that's helpful. Um, and then to be able to apply antidotes on the cushion is helpful. It's kind of like, rehearsal, trying it out and seeing how it lands, how it works. So that's very helpful. The other piece in the last while is it was very clear to me after many of the teachings that we've had about uh, what equanimity actually is and what the basis of it is. Um, I've always done the one about, stranger, enemy, and friend, and done that one. But that has not been very helpful to my mind. What has been very helpful to my mind is when I am reacting to another living being in front of me to remind myself that they are exactly like me, wanting happiness and not suffer. And when I am able to do that, it diffuses all of my junk. I'm able to let go, of all the stuff my mind is constructing. So that's been very helpful. Regarding attachment, for me, attachment is the practice of letting go. Um, I was able to work on attachment during the retreat when my nephew was visiting. I could see how taking on the responsibility for his experience while he was here is just misery making, and I practiced a lot to keep my mouth shut and step back and let things just unfold as they were going to. That's his deal, not mine. That was helpful. I also have been working on decreasing the tight grip on my identities, especially the one that oversees community health care. Thank you, COVID. Yeah. So I remind myself I am one small factor in the dependent arising of the health or illness of each person here. That's been very helpful. It's been very painful, I will say. If I've created any pain to anyone else, I apologize for that. A lot of it has to do with how I was taught to care for people in my profession. But really, again, this thing about not trying to take on the responsibility of something that isn't mine. And that's hard. And all of this really has to do with compassion. It's a compassion practice. So to tell myself, what I do is enough, because I only have control over what I do. How things arise and what actually happens, I don't have control over that at all, ever. Regarding ignorance, I have done a lot more study of emptiness this last year, and it has brought a deeper understanding in terms of how complex realizing emptiness is, and that it takes daily study and daily contemplation and daily meditation. And so that's what I'm made a strong commitment to do that. I love what His Holiness the Dalai Lama says about compassion. He says, compassion brings inner strength and truth. With truth, we have nothing to hide and are not dependent on the opinions of others. This brings a self-confidence, and problems can be dealt with without losing hope or determination. There's a lot in that sentence, in those three sentences. So, of course, we've all been conditioned to think success means all external events unfold according to our wishes, and all people act in accord with our ideas. I don't think I'm the only one that gets lost in that. And of course, when we're momentarily happy, when our desires and needs are met, it lasts, a nanosecond. And when we encounter obstacles, of course, then the three poisons arise. So unhooking my happiness from external circumstances is the most challenging practice. That's the hardest thing to do for me. The goal is to root my happiness in my own thoughts and actions. Now, that doesn't mean becoming more self-centered. Rather, it is remembering my mind is the source of my happiness or my pain. I also love what His Holiness wrote in the first volume of the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, Approaching the Buddhist Path. He said, if our happiness depends on the behavior of others, we have no recourse and little control when things do not go as we wish. But if our happiness is rooted in our own thoughts and actions, we have the means to determine the nature of our future experiences. Remembering this, we resolve to subdue self-centeredness and self-grasping ignorance and the actions that are motivated by them. In short, not only is it counterproductive and futile to blame others for our problems and unhappiness, it is also unrealistic. They are not the true cause of our misery. If I could just keep that in my mind all the time, things would go a lot better. So by accepting responsibility for our unrealistic expectations and our previous harmful actions, we can transform their undesirable results into factors that help us to progress on the path to awakening. So let's do that one.